Part 5. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 41. After listening to her uncle's words, Feng Qingxiu's first thought was that she had a huge secret of space in her body. It would be safer for her if her husband was not around for a long time. She never intended to tell anyone this secret, including her future partner. However, Lu Jiang's family background is a problem. Even though she didn't grow up in this era, she had heard some things about this era. Her grandmother had suffered due to her poor family background. She didn't know if she could afford the more than 10-year-old life brought about by her husband's poor family background. Years of risk. She admires soldiers, but she doesn't know if she has the courage to marry a soldier and live a long life apart. Uncle, before the founding of the People's Republic of China, it was all about being well matched. It's not about being well matched as it is now. It's about big families marrying big families, and small families marrying small families. No matter what, the Lu family used to be considered a big family, and Lu Ziwen was pampered and pampered since he was a child. Can you like me, a poor girl? Lu Zhang is a soldier, will you be happy? Feng Qingxiu asked her doubts. Uncle Wang smiled casually after hearing this. No matter what happened in the past or what will happen in the future, now is the era when poor peasants are popular. Besides, if they are not willing to marry a girl from a poor peasant family, I will not mention this to you. Uncle, I think I need to think about it. It was a lifelong matter, and she couldn't make a decisive decision. Uncle Wang nodded. It should be. Besides, even if you meet, you may not necessarily be able to make it happen. After the matter was finished, Aunt Wang went back to the house first. Uncle Wang fell one step behind and lowered his voice and told Feng Qingxiu, "Shui, Lu Zhang has nothing wrong with him except for his family. You will know it later, but you can't say it now." Field. If his daughter Wang Jiao hadn't been unwilling to do so, he would have wanted to marry Lu Ziwen. Thinking of this, Uncle Wang could only sigh in his heart and only hated his daughter for not being able to recognize people. The daughters of other siblings are already married and have children. Now the only unmarried girls are sisters Feng Qingxiu and Feng Qingyun, as well as his own daughter who has no vision. Among them, Feng Qingyun is only 5 years old, which can be ignored. After joining his younger siblings at the house, Uncle Wang took his 2 younger brothers to dig a cellar in the corner to store potatoes and sweet potatoes. After everything was sorted out and no traces could be seen on the outside, Uncle Wang wiped his sweat and said, "People, we have all seen it and the things have been delivered. Let's go back. Don't wait until dark. We are on the way. It's not easy to walk." Feng Qingxiu quickly took out the cereals and rolls from her backpack. "Uncle, you have eaten before leaving. You 2 sisters can keep it for yourselves." Uncle Wang touched Feng Qingyun's head and looked at Feng Qingxiu lovingly. "Shui, you should think carefully about what I told you. If you agree, then go to my place and tell me, so that Lu Jiang's father can send a message asking you to come back and meet him during his vacation." "Good." Hearing her crisp response, Uncle Wang took the lead and walked out the door, carrying an empty basket and an empty sack. Feng Qingxiu took her sister away, far away, and watched them leave until she could no longer see their backs before returning to the house. "Sister, uncle, 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 third uncle, and aunt are so kind." Feng Qingyun was the first to speak. Like Feng Qingxiu, she was also moved. She reached out and stuffed the remaining half of the cake into her sister's mouth. Feng Qingxiu did not refuse, so we must be filial to them in the future. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 42. Feng Qingxiu cooked some miscellaneous dough, and the 2 sisters made dinner with miscellaneous grain-steamed buns. The 2 quilts given by Uncle Wang's brother and sister were nothing more than a timely help for them. Although they were not new, and the coarse cloth quilt with white background and blue flowers had several patches on it, it was very soft and exuded the warmth of the sun smell. Qingyun took off her shoes, wore autumn clothes and long trousers, and happily rolled around on the bed covered with quilts. The weather is getting colder and colder, and having a quilt is really a blessing. Kingyun rubbed her little face against the quilt with a satisfied look on her face. Sister, when I grow up, I will definitely be filial to my uncle and aunt, Kingyun jumped up and declared loudly. I'll remember it and tell my uncle and aunt next time. Feng Qingxiu smiled. She had already planned to find an excuse to bring 2 old quilts back in 2 days. Unexpectedly, her uncle and aunt sent them, which saved her a lot of trouble. When the weather gets colder, the cotton in these 2 beds will be thickened enough to survive the winter. The clothes delivered were also very clean. There were 3 sets of clothes for 1 large and 2 small. Feng Qingxiu finally had some clothes to change from outside. The underwear she is wearing now still belongs to her in the space. Early the next morning, before dawn, after eating hot sweet potato rice, she appeared in front of Uncle Su and Aunt Su's house, wearing the same clothes, carrying a backpack and pushing a bicycle, with the back seats on both sides. 2 sacks each containing half a sack of grain. Because they had made an appointment long ago, Uncle Su and Aunt Su were waiting at the door. When they saw her, they quickly welcomed her into the house. The sack contained coarse grains, half a sack of wheat bran and half a sack of cornmeal. The basket on his back contained fine grains, and the small cloth pocket contained white flour, black flour, and brown rice, weighing 5 or 6 kilograms each, as well as a bag of eggs, a dozen sections of sausages, and a small jar of yellow peanut oil. Since she got top-quality jewelry from Uncle Su and Aunt Su's friends, Feng Qingxiu didn't hesitate to give him food. Anyway, the food in her space is enough for many people to eat for a long time, and life will be better in the 1980s and 1990s. After coming to this era, Feng Qingxiu was always grateful for her prompt decision after getting the space. Seeing these things, Uncle Su and Aunt Su finally saw Feng Qingxiu's methods. Those delicate and precious things cannot be obtained with money. But they wisely don't ask about their origins. Qingxiu, these grains plus the food supplies in the city are enough for us old guys to eat for a while. Don't send any more grains in a short time, so as not to be targeted by interested people, Aunt Su ordered. Feng Qingxiu responded, okay, ma'am, I'll try to save you when you need it. Don't starve yourselves. Okay, I won't say any polite words to you, Aunt Su said. After hiding the food and sending Feng Qingxiu out, she took out a cloth bag from the box and gave it to Feng Qingxiu. Take it. What is this? Feng Qingxiu asked. The food you sent last time, your uncle and I distributed it to several old friends. How could they get it for free? So I picked some things to give you as a thank you gift. These are the only things they have in hand, and you can't eat it, but you don't dare to take action. It really complies with the saying, there is nothing to eat if you guard the gold and silver mountain. Feng Qingxiu put it in her backpack without even looking at it, and rode off. While traveling over the mountains and ridges, Feng Qingxiu had time to open the cloth bag given by Aunt Su. There are 4 small boxes in the cloth bag. The big one is as big as a palm, and the small one is only half the size of a palm. The materials of the wooden boxes are all good materials, either red sandalwood, huanghuali, or red rosewood. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 43. The materials are so good and the craftsmanship is exquisite, so the contents inside are naturally valuable. Without exception, they are all jewelry. Some are worse than what Aunt Su gave, and some are not as good, but they are not cheap. There are very few gold ornaments, mostly jade jewelry. These are the most worthless things on the market currently, Feng Qingxiu smiled. Gold can be sold to banks, but no one cares about jade jewelry. After carefully retracting the space, Feng Qingxiu walked home. The sisters' stomachs were almost ready, so she brought back a piece of mutton with big bones. As soon as she took it out of the basket, Feng Qingyun, who turned around and was about to say she liked towels, saw it and jumped up in surprise. "Sister, is this meat? Is it meat? Is it meat that my parents secretly gave to the eldest and second brothers?" Although she has never eaten it, she has seen it, and the aroma when cooked is delicious. Feng Qingxiu felt sour in her heart. The meat that the Feng family used to eat was given by the uncle of the Wang family. Unfortunately, the only people in the Feng family who could eat meat were the sons and grandsons of the Feng family. Not to mention King Yun, even the original owner of Qingxiu couldn't eat it. The difference is that Feng Qingxiu's living conditions were much better than during the famine years when she was young. She could occasionally eat 1 or 2 pieces of meat during festivals, but Feng Qingyun really had no chance to eat meat since she was born. "Yes, it's meat, it's mutton." Feng Qingxiu's voice was soft. "Sister, I'll cook mutton soup for you. Mutton clear soup nourishes the stomach." "Great, great, let's eat meat." Feng Qingyun beamed and jumped up and down. She didn't ask a word about where it came from. Feng Qingxiu breathed a sigh of relief. She was most afraid of her sister asking endless questions. "Wash the mutton and cut it into pieces, put it in a clay pot, add enough water, boil it and skim off the foam, then add some ginger slices." The ginger was also brought back by Feng Qingxiu, and the aroma fills the house. Feng Qingyun clicked her little lips and happily stood in front of the stove to light the fire, staring at the earthen pot with bright eyes. The mutton was not yet cooked, and it started to rain outside. A hint of coolness passed through the doors and windows and penetrated straight into the house. Feng Qingxiu laughed. "Mutton soup is the best way to ward off the cold. King Yun, please eat more mutton later." In her previous life, when she was a child, she often drank mutton soup throughout the year. Feng Qingyun nodded heavily. After the mutton came out of the pot, she drank a large bowl of soup and ate several pieces of mutton. The taste was so fragrant to her that her belly was bulging and she still couldn't finish it. Feng Qingxiu rarely ate meat at night, only a bowl of clear soup and a piece of steamed bun with multigrain noodles. This is because Feng Qingyun lacks nutrition, otherwise she would not stew mutton at night. "We'll eat the rest tomorrow. It's cold now and won't go bad." Feng Qingxiu said this, and Feng Qingyun, who had been staring at the jar, reluctantly looked back. After the meal, Feng Qingxiu pulled Feng Qingyun around the room to finish eating before washing and going to bed. Otherwise, she would not feel comfortable sleeping at night after eating so much. Eat well in the morning, eat well at noon, and eat at night. Less is the truth. In her sleep, Feng Qingyun still kept slapping her mouth and shouting, "The mutton is delicious." Feng Qingxiu couldn't sleep because of what Uncle Wang said. When she heard this talk in her sleep, she felt funny and sad at the same time. In times of scarcity, everyone is eager for food. After tucking Feng Qingyun in, she closed her eyes. "My eyes were closed, but I didn't fall asleep." She was thinking about Lu Zhang and whether she should meet him. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 44. She clearly remembered what her grandparents told her about ancient times. In this era, lifestyle was very important. When young men and women went on a blind date, it was basically the elders of both parties who had figured out the situation. As long as there were no major problems, they would usually be fine after meeting each other. Set it down. Any behavior that is not for the purpose of marriage is hooliganism. She is not a little girl who is full of romance, she has too many things to consider. People, families, and most importantly the era. She discriminates against evil people but not those with bad qualities. There are bad people among people with good qualities, and there are good people among people with bad qualities. Good and evil are not determined by ingredients. Her thoughts kept churning, the rain kept falling, and Feng Qingxiu fell asleep in a daze. When I got up the next day, it still rained. The earthen pot was occupied by the mutton soup left over from last night, so the two sisters heated up the mutton soup and soaked the steamed buns for breakfast. Mutton is hot in nature, and you will feel warm all over after eating it. Feng Qingxiu couldn't go out and had no intention of going out, so she took out the textbook she bought from the scrapyard and taught Feng Qingyun how to read. This child is naturally smart and has an excellent memory. She can memorize many things after being taught them. What a piece of jade! Feng Qingxiu made up her mind to train her well and send her to school in the beginning of spring. This would not only make it easier for her to do things, but also allow her to learn knowledge. She didn't learn enough in school, and didn't she have herself at home? You can turn on a small stove. A few days later, Feng Qingxiu took a piece of mutton to visit Uncle Su and Aunt Su, and took back the clothes she had asked Aunt Su to make. It was also the appointment we made last time. However, Uncle Su is not at home, and Aunt Su is alone. What happened? Seeing that Feng Qingxiu had a sad look on her eyebrows, as if she was confused by something, Aunt Su couldn't help but ask. Feng Qingxiu was currently in need of someone to listen to her talk, so she couldn't help but tell Aunt Su about the marriage that her uncle had told her about, and humbly asked Aunt Su for her opinion. After hearing this, Aunt Su thought for a while and then spoke directly. Qingxiu, although I don't know your family situation, I can tell from your conversation that you are a very outstanding and kind-hearted girl. Since you don't value your grades, why do you have to marry someone with good grades? Not me. We have the arrogance of those with bad elements, but most of those who are classified as good elements have been poor since childhood. They are not intellectuals or talented people with lofty ideals. Most of them are illiterate, and some of them are illiterate. Such a rough man may not be worthy of your talent and appearance. I'm afraid you don't want to live a life of facing the lowest and turning your back to the sky. Let me tell you, you might as well meet that Lu Zhang, if he is really like that. What your uncle said is so good, and you fall in love again, it can be regarded as a good marriage. Having said this, Aunt Su sighed, but I understand your hesitation. People with bad backgrounds have a really difficult life in this era. They have to face ups and downs and all kinds of discrimination all the time. Look at us. Got it? Fortunately, Lu Zhang is a soldier, and as a member of a military family, you shouldn't be blamed too much. It's hard to talk about his father and nephew. Feng Qingxiu was thoughtful. Aunt Su added, marriage is about like-mindedness. Only when we are like-minded can we develop feelings for each other. If we don't agree, we will just hate each other. Even though you and I are so old, we were married because we had similar interests. Come together. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 45. Feng Qingxiu was walking on the way home, thinking about Aunt Su's words, and asking herself in her heart. Are you really willing to marry a peasant with good grades but no cultural knowledge? Are you really willing to work from sunrise to sunset every day, mentally calculating how many work points you earn and how many buckets of food you can share at the end of the year, living a life without any spiritual communication, and surviving until the end of the cultural catastrophe? Are you really willing to put the rest of your life on the next generation? Not willing to give in. She is not willing to give in. It's not that she looks down on illiterate farmers. In her heart, everyone, rich or poor, is equal. This is what her grandparents and parents taught her. She always remembers it and does it. It's just that compared to whether her background is good or bad, she has no courage to marry. A man without any level of education simply cannot accept that when you are talking about the Red Mansion, he is talking about how much manure was used in the fields this year to harvest how many buckets of grain. If the cultures are not equal and the tastes are not the same, if things go on like this, the grudges will become deeper and the results will not be good. It is not that there are people with good grades and high educational level, but most of them are in the city. Many units recruit people based on their composition and cultural knowledge. In this difficult living era, based on the conditions of the original owner, in addition to beauty, they have he may not like her. Now that there are widespread disasters all over the country, and the supply of commercial grain in the city is cut off from time to time, how many people are willing to marry a country wife? As far as she knows, even if you marry a city dweller, your household registration will not become an urban household registration, but will increase the pressure on your life. Especially when she plans to live with Feng Qingyun after getting married. Maybe she really should meet Lu Zhang. As Uncle Wang said, there is nothing bad about him personally. The only thing that worries people is his family background. In her view, family status is not a criterion for measuring a person's quality. What she is worried about is the storm caused by family status during the cultural catastrophe. However, without going through wind and rain, how can there be a rainbow? No one can guarantee that their life will be smooth sailing, even if they marry someone with good background. Thinking of this, Feng Qingxiu turned around and went to the Wanglu Brigade first. Although the reply to Uncle Wang now seems a bit impatient and not reserved enough, there are some things that cannot be delayed. According to Uncle Wang, people are also waiting for a reply. The clothes I took from Ansu were put into the space, and some things from the space were put into the backpack. Feng Qingxiu just walked into the Wanglu Brigade. The original owner was very impressed with the Wanglu Brigade. Because Uncle Wang is smart and decisive, he doesn't pay much attention to many of the measures above. He has always let the people of Wanglu Brigade grow sweet potatoes, corn, and other high-yielding crops. This is a mountainous area, which is especially suitable for these crops. The harvest is good, so when there is famine everywhere, he or she lives a good life, and her mental state is 100 times better than that of the Feng family. It's been a long time since I've been here, and no one in the Wanglu Brigade recognizes Feng Qingxiu. Hey, where did this handsome girl come from? Who are you looking for? A passing lady couldn't help but ask when she saw Feng Qingxiu and saw that she was beautiful and elegant, and she was very different from the women around her. The Wanglu Brigade is just that big, everyone knows each other, so a sudden arrival of a stranger will naturally attract people's attention. Feng Qingxiu quickly said hello with a smile. Hello, Aunt, I'm here to see my uncle. Who is your uncle? My uncle's name is Wang Zhenkuo. Zhenkuo was named by Lu Ziwen's parents. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 46. When she heard that Feng Qingxiu's uncle was Wang Zhenkuo, the woman became even more enthusiastic. You are the captain's niece, no wonder you are so handsome. Which family are you from? You should call me cousin-in-law, not aunt. Seniority is quite strict. This woman, Jing Kuihua, is Wang Zhenkuo's nephew-in-law, so of course Feng Qingxiu has to call her cousin-in-law. Hello, cousin. Feng Qingxiu immediately changed her words and continued to say that her surname was Feng. Jing Kuihua immediately remembered, oh, you are from the Kuihua production team, the daughter of the captain's second sister. Feng Qingxiu said yes with a smile. Now that we have finished planting wheat, we are all idle. Just now I saw your uncle chopping firewood in front of the house. Go quickly. After listening to Jing Kuihua's words, Feng Qingxiu said goodbye, held the basket on her back and walked quickly to Uncle Wang's house. With the memory of the original owner, of course she knew the road. Halfway through, a child suddenly ran over from the side and accidentally bumped into Feng Qingxiu, almost falling down. Careful! Feng Qingxiu held him up, but saw several children chasing after him, shouting. After listening carefully, Feng Qingxiu found that they were all curse words. Down with the landlords! Down with the 5 black categories. The black category 5 brat is still the black category 5, we are going to beat him to death. The landowners eat people without spitting out their bones, knock them down. Feng Qingxiu knew without even thinking that the child who bumped into her must have a bad family background. Other children followed his example and came to bully him. After stabilizing him, she whispered, "Run quickly, I'll stop it for you, hold them." The child looked up at him and ran away quickly. Looking up, Feng Qingxiu discovered that he had a pair of beautiful eyes, black and big, as bright as stars. Within a moment, the 4 or 5 children who were chasing him were in front of Feng Qingxiu. Feng Qingxiu did not stop them directly, but took out a handful of peeled hard candies from her backpack and said with a smile, "I came to visit relatives, just to see your captain. I don't know where his family lives. Who among you can help me? I'll give you candy if you lead the way." When they heard the word sugar, the saliva of the 5 boys of different ages immediately started to flow. "I'll lead the way. I'll lead the way. I'll lead the way. I'll lead the way. I'll lead the way." The 5 people said in unison, rushing to lead her in front, having long forgotten what happened before. As expected, Uncle Wang Zhenqiu was chopping firewood at the door. They were all shrub roots and tree knots dug out from the mountains, and chopped into pieces with an axe, making it easier to make fires. Wang Zhenqiu wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked up to see Feng Qingxiu standing in front of him with a smile. Noticing the 4 or 5 children beside her, Wang Zhenqiu raised his eyebrows in surprise. Before he could ask any questions, Feng Qingxiu gave them a piece of candy, and the children dispersed in a hurry. "What's going on?" Wang Zhenqiu asked after the children had left. Feng Qingxiu said lightly, "It's nothing, I just let them lead the way." After Wang Zhenqiu heard this, he did not ask further questions. He believed that his niece had her own code of conduct and would not do anything bad. His father, "Who is here?" My aunt Miao Fengqin heard the sound in the yard and came out. She wiped her hands that were washing clothes. She didn't recognize Feng Qingxiu at first glance. "Who is this? Where did the beauty come from, with her eyebrows and almond-shaped eyes, and her jade face and red lips?" Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "Big sister, I am Qingxiu, don't you recognize me?" Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 47. Qingxiu, Miao Fengqin was shocked. "You are really a woman, she is becoming more and more beautiful, she used to be thin and sallow." Although she knew that she was not ugly, she really didn't know that she would be so beautiful. "She is the best in the 10 miles and 8 towns. Pretty." Having lived to such a long age, and because she married Wang Zhenqiu, Miao Fengqin is more knowledgeable than many people. Feng Qingxiu looks even prettier than the heroine in the movie, but she is still a little thinner, and she will be even more beautiful if she gets fatter. However, Feng Qingxiu felt a little embarrassed when Miao Fengqin praised her, "Big sister. Come in the house, come in the house, let's talk if you have anything to say." Miao Fengqin smiled and pulled her into the house. Wang Zhenqiu thought it was his niece who answered him. Keeping this in mind, he quickly washed his hands and carried the axe into the house. The firewood was still at the door and no one dared to steal it. As soon as she entered the house, she heard Miao Fengqin scolding Feng Qingxiu, "As long as people are here, what are you doing with the things?" Wang Zhenqiu took a closer look and saw 4 or 5 oranges, 4 or 5 autumn pears, a large piece of bacon, a handful of sugar cubes, and a clay pot on the table. He didn't know what was in it. Wang Zhenqiu's expression immediately changed. "Snow, where did it come from?" Feng Qingxiu quickly explained, "Uncle, don't worry, you and me, I didn't do anything bad. I've been running around outside a lot these days, and with the extra food I got back, I was able to free up some stuff." Then, she added, "Xiaoun is young, and there is no insurance in my place. I didn't dare to leave my things at home, and I didn't dare to tell Xiaoun, so I kept them hidden outside. Why don't I come to see my uncle de Kuize? I dare to take it over. I also want to tell my uncle and eldest sister that they don't have to worry about me and Xiaoun, I can afford to take care of her. You really didn't do anything bad, Wang Zhenqiu asked worriedly. Really not, Feng Qingxiu almost swore to the sky. Even if you haven't done anything bad, it's better to do less of this, Wang Zhenqiu said with a serious face. I have been in and out of the black market, and I know the risks that need to be taken. You are young and a girl, so don't be targeted by interested people. Before you in front of De Jinzi, I still say the same thing, don't worry, you're De Jinzi and I can support you and Xiaoun. This is the way to behave as an elder. Feng Qingxiu was moved in her heart. I know, uncle, I know how powerful it is. By this time, Miao Fengqin had already opened the clay pot, which contained a full can of soybean oil, weighing not less than 5 kilograms but also 3 kilograms. Snow, you put a lot of thought into these things, right? After hearing what Miao Fengqin asked, Wang Zhenqiu also asked the same question. I have some connections outside, Feng Qingxiu said vaguely and quickly changed the subject. Uncle, Xiaoun is waiting for me at home. I have to go back in a while. I came here to tell uncle what you said last time. I agreed. Miao Fengqin hurriedly asked what was going on. Wang Zhenqiu said calmly, I just told Lu Ziwen about my daughter-in-law. Jiao Jiao didn't want to, so I thought of Shui. When Lu Ziwen was mentioned, Miao Fengqin's expression changed. You clearly know that this is not a good family, why did you tell Shui? Jiao Jiao is right if she doesn't want to, and she is a fool if she does. What is the composition of our family, and what is the composition of his family? Aren't you harming Shui? What do you know? I'm doing this for the sake of my children, Wang Zhenqiu said. If the Lu family is really bad, can he offer his daughter or niece to the Lu family as his daughter-in-law? Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 48. Miao Fengqin sneered, in today's world, I don't see any benefit in marrying the Lu family. Turning her head, she took Feng Qingxiu's hand and said sincerely, Shui, your uncle is confused. You can't be confused. It concerns your life. Don't just listen to him. I'll introduce you to him tomorrow, good family. No matter what time, men like to be beautiful. Feng Qingxiu is so good looking, it is easy to find a good match. Who in the Wanglu brigade doesn't want to marry the niece of the captain? The work points and food distribution all depend on the team leader. De Jinzi, I know you are doing it for my own good, and I also know that my uncle will not harm me. I have thought about this for a long time before making up my mind. After all, I have to live with Xiaoun. Now my parents are gone. Well, my brother and sister-in-law are like that. If Xiaoun is left alone, he will definitely starve to death. Only people like the Lu family will not care about me taking Xiaoun. After hearing what Feng Qingxiu said, Miao Fengqin became silent. She has several grandchildren in her family who need to be taken care of. It is impossible to adopt Feng Qingyun. Even if she and her husband are willing, their sons and daughters-in-law will not be happy to suddenly have more children. They cannot work and have to open their mouths to eat. Wang Zhenqiu was afraid that his wife's words might make his niece change her mind, so he quickly pulled her out. I'll take you around the brigade, that's what he said. In fact, he wanted to take Feng Qingxiu to see the situation of the Lu family. Feng Qingxiu understood. Wang Zhenqiu whispered as he walked, Shui, I really won't harm you. Don't listen to your sister-in-law's nonsense. The Lu family is not as simple as it seems. You won't suffer hardship when you get married. Although I can afford to support you and your family now. Xiaoun, after all, there are a large family of children and grandchildren, and it is impossible for everyone to be happy. In order to avoid causing trouble in the future because they are not happy, it is better to make arrangements for you now. Uncle, I understand. Hearing this, Wang Zhenqiu was extremely happy, with a smile on his face. He took Feng Qingxiu around and stood for a moment in front of a cowshed that was some distance away from where most people lived. Sitting on the stone in front of the cowshed was a thin old man, in his 50s, with silver-white temples, wearing an old patched military coat. Seeing Wang Zhenqiu, he immediately stood up. He didn't say anything. Wang Zhenqiu nodded to him and said with a smile, "My niece hasn't been here for a long time. I'll take her out for a walk." Hearing this, the old man's eyes lit up and he looked at Feng Qingxiu carefully, with a happy look on his face. Feng Qingxiu knew that this old man was Lu Ziwen. She had never been a coy character, and she didn't know what attitude to adopt, so she finally said hello generously. "Okay, okay," Lu Ziwen said a series of yes, expressing his great satisfaction. After Wang Zhenqiu and Feng Qingxiu left, Lu Ziwen still couldn't stop smiling. After a while, he said to himself, "I didn't expect little Danzi to be so lucky." Lu Ziwen is a mature man, how could he not see Feng Qingxiu's excellence? Temperament cannot be hidden from others. Without a certain connotation, you cannot develop your current magnanimity. Wang Zhenqiu's niece looked much better than his own daughter. Lu Ziwen had not taken a liking to Wang Jiao before, so when Wang Jiao didn't want to, he followed the trend and asked Wang Zhenqiu to find someone else. Now he was afraid that things would change, so he went to find Wang Zhenqiu that night. Straight to the point, "Zhenguo, please send a telegram to Lu Zhang early tomorrow morning and ask him to come back and meet." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 49. Wang Zhenqiu wore an old cotton-padded jacket and greeted Lu Ziwen outside. He smiled and said, "So satisfied." Yes, Lu Ziwen took a sip of the hot water poured by Wang Zhenqiu with a smile on his face. Lu Zhang is lucky. It depends on whether he is lucky enough to have this great opportunity you gave him. After all, it may not be possible if he meets him. Moreover, as a soldier, Lu Zhang needs to report his love affairs and his marriage, and must pass the review. If you fail the political review, you will not be able to fall in love or get married even if you are willing to do so. What makes Lu Ziwen happy now is that Feng Qingxiu's composition is good enough, and with Wang Zhenqiu, his uncle, pulling the strings, many things that others may consider troublesome can be solved easily. His own status is not good, and his descendants will be affected. This is the only thing he can do for Lu Zhang now. Marrying a girl with good roots will not be a burden, but a help. The world is like this, there is no way to compete, only compromise. What made him feel most lucky was that this girl was much better than he imagined. It was up to Lu Zhang whether he could take his fancy. Lu Zhang has a high vision. If he hadn't had a high vision, he wouldn't have been delayed until now. Actually, you can't blame him. It was a requirement that he set for his son. The requirement was that his daughter-in-law must be educated, literate, have a certain level of literacy, and have a certain sense of bearing. He always believed that only by reading can one be sensible, and only by being sensible can one manage the household and educate the children. Even if scholars are now driven into dust, Lu Ziwen still insists on his own requirements. Even if she is illiterate before marriage, she must be taught to read after marriage. That's why, in this tense situation, he turned to Wang Zhenqiu and introduced Lu Zhang to a girl with good qualities and good character, but this girl had to impress him before Lu Zhang could come back. Although he doesn't have very good eyesight, the current girl is simple and her true nature can be seen at a glance. Feng Qingxiu is not like Wang Zhenqiu, who said she only attended literacy classes. Her every move is obviously influenced by the fragrance of books. This kind of temperament is infiltrated in her bones. You can't feel it at first glance, but you will find that she is different from ordinary country people if you look closely. Girls are as different as clouds and mud. I don't know what kind of luck this girl had before developing her current demeanor. Due to the general preference for boys over girls, many girls did not have the opportunity to go to school, including literacy classes. Lu Ziwen suspected that Feng Qingxiu had a teacher unknown to others and was taught by him in private. This situation is not unheard of. There are countless literati who have fallen into trouble due to class differences. Again, it depends on whether Lu Zhang is lucky or not. Lu Ziwen then praised Feng Qingxiu a few words. Wang Zhenqiu knew that he was really satisfied with Feng Qingxiu when he heard the praise in his words. The two of them have been together for more years than a couple, and everyone knows the other's personality and thoughts. Okay, I'll go to the commune tomorrow and send a telegram to Lu Zhang. What should I say? Just say that there is already a candidate for marriage, so we have to return home quickly, Lu Ziwen said while taking out the money. It's urgent. He will understand after receiving the telegram. As for the love report and marriage report, they must wait until both parties are willing to meet. Only then can you report it to the top. Okay, go tomorrow morning. After saying this, Wang Zhenqiu took the money and said, "Is there anything you need me to bring back?" Lu Ziwen thought for a while and shook his head, "Not now. When Lu Zhang comes back after sending the money and tickets, I will trouble you to make 2 more trips. If the two of them see eye to eye, I should be more prepared." Sure. Regardless of whether they like each other or not, when Lu Zhang gets married, I will definitely find a way to build him 2 houses. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 50. While Wang Zhenqiu and Lu Ziwen were chatting, Feng Qingxiu returned home and faced a mess. The doors and windows were wide open, and everything in the house was in chaos. Some of the furniture that Feng Erhu and his son brought for them, such as cupboards, tables, stools, basins, etc., were gone, leaving only a bed and a few textbooks that she had not placed in the space. The bed was empty, without quilts, and the clothes that the sisters had replaced. Gone too. Feng Qingyun, with only a pair of shorts on her body, was lying in the corner, her whole body turned blue from the cold, her forehead was covered with blood, and she didn't know whether she was alive or dead. Qingyun. Feng Qingxiu was shocked, dropped the big baggage in her hand, rushed to her side, and carefully tested her breath. Still angry. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly checked that there were no injuries on her body except for the skin wound on her forehead, and then she dared to carry her to the bed and lie down. There was a coarse cloth-covered sheepskin jacket made for her by Aunt Sue, and she was busy with everything. He took out the medical kit and cleaned her wounds. The wound was not big, it seemed to have been broken. It was disinfected, sprinkled with Yunnan Bio, and wrapped with gauze. However, there were 2 heavy slap marks on her cheeks, which were already swollen. Feng Qingxiu sprayed her with some swelling medicine. At this moment, she was both happy and regretful. I was glad that I prepared a lot of medicines when I got the space, and also learned a lot of first aid techniques. I especially regretted leaving Feng Qingyun's child at home. This is obviously someone coming to rob the house. Feng Qingxiu put on Feng Qingyun's clothes and shoes made by Aunt Sue, with blazing anger in her eyes. Sister Ah, after a long time, Feng Qingyun woke up. In addition to calling her, the first sentence was crying, "Sister, the second sister, and the second treasure, and the 2 treasures of Dabao Danny took our things away. Sister-in-law. Second sister-in-law. Very good." Feng Qingxiu gritted her teeth. "Qingyun, how were you injured? Who hit you?" "It's the second sister-in-law. She slapped me twice when I stopped them from grabbing things." "Sister, the wawadu you put in the cupboard for me to make lunch was also eaten by Dabao and Erbao." Feng Qingyun felt very sad. She didn't notice what her sister had worked so hard to get. Dabeo pushed me down and hit my head on the wall. I don't know anything anymore. Feng Qingxiu hugged her and stroked her back again and again. Tell me, sister, are you dizzy? Don't get a concussion. I'm not dizzy, but my forehead hurts. Feng Qingxiu gently blew on the wound covered with gauze. Then tell me, sister, who took off your clothes? Clothes? Feng Qingyun asked in confusion. When he lowered his head, he realized that he was not wearing the clothes he wore in the morning. He quickly raised his head to look at Feng Qingxiu. Sister, where are my clothes? Why did I change my clothes? At this point, Feng Qingyun cried wow. She finally had her own clothes, and the new autumn clothes and long pants that her sister made for her were all gone. Sister! My clothes are gone. My clothes, her favorite pink autumn clothes and autumn pants. When I came back, you were lying on the ground in your panties, and I was about to ask you, Feng Qingxiu said softly, and then comforted, Sister, I will find a way to make clothes for you in the future, don't cry. Having read a lot of news before traveling through time, she was particularly worried that her sister had been sexually assaulted, but fortunately her test results showed that she had not. Feng Qingyun sobbed and shook her head, expressing her ignorance. Sister, they must have taken off my clothes after I fainted. Although she is a child and wears children's clothes, they are very good clothes. Dabeo, Urbeo, and Danny are also children, and their usual clothes are much shabbier than what she is wearing now.